Hey there! If you want to stay informed and never miss out on important updates, make sure you follow S News. Support us by subscribing, liking and commenting. It really helps us keep bringing these stories to you. Red warning lights are flashing across the globe. The threat of nuclear war is back. The nightmare we thought we had buried in history books has returned to haunt us. Its chilling presence can be felt in every corner of the world. This isn't fear-mongering or panic. It's a sober look at deliberate moves, calculated strategies on the global chessboard, and reckless provocations that could unravel the fragile peace we've worked so hard to maintain. The threat of nuclear war is back. The nightmare we thought we had buried in history books has returned to haunt us. Its chilling presence can be felt in every corner of the world. This isn't fear-mongering or panic. It's a sober look at deliberate moves, calculated strategies on the global chessboard, and reckless provocations that could unravel the fragile peace we've worked so hard to maintain. The often repeated and widely accepted story of Western defense leaves out decades of provocation and broken promises to Russia, a key part of understanding today's crisis. We need to look beyond headlines and media soundbites. We need to examine the real reasons behind the crisis, the deep-rooted tensions and historical grievances that led us here. Understanding the architects of this escalation, those who have deliberately led us down this dangerous path, is the only way we can hope to find reason, ease tensions and return to negotiations. The post-Cold War order, which once offered hope for lasting peace and cooperation, has shattered. The dream of a world united by shared values and mutual growth has turned into a harsh, unsettling reality. The foundations of international stability, carefully built over decades, are now crumbling under renewed geopolitical tension and rising conflicts. Cooperation and diplomacy have been replaced by open hostility. Mistrust and antagonism now define international relations. Dialogue has broken down, and many of the communication channels once used to manage disagreements and prevent misunderstandings are gone. The global stage is now dominated by military posturing, hostile rhetoric, and growing anxiety. Ukraine is no longer just a regional conflict. It has become the center of a much larger global struggle. What's happening there is pushing the world toward a more divided and dangerous future. It's a proxy war, a battlefield where major powers compete for influence and control, creating a new world order that's unstable and unpredictable. The consequences of this conflict go far beyond Ukraine's borders. It affects global security, economic stability, and the future of international relations. The West, led by the United States, has largely abandoned diplomacy and instead embraced economic warfare, using sanctions and trade restrictions as weapons and military escalation, which has only increased the risk of direct confrontation. This approach, meant to apply pressure and deter aggression, has instead fueled tensions and deepened divisions. We now find ourselves in a world where humanity's very existence is on the line. It's a dangerous moment marked by rising risks and fewer safety measures. The shadow of nuclear conflict looms large, casting fear and uncertainty over the future. Nuclear deterrence, once seen as a grim but necessary last resort to prevent full-scale war, is now being used recklessly, with little regard for the catastrophic consequences it could bring. The careful calculations and strategic restraint of the Cold War era seem to have been replaced by a far more aggressive mindset. The old guarantees, treaties and agreements designed to limit nuclear weapons and prevent accidental war are gone. They've been dismantled because of distrust and a lack of political will. Europe has become the playground for a dangerous game of nuclear chicken, a high-risk standoff where the smallest mistake could lead to unimaginable destruction. Nuclear weapons are being moved and deployed near potential conflict zones and aggressively integrated into military planning, suggesting a growing belief that nuclear war isn't just possible, it might even be inevitable. This tragic outcome comes after decades of NATO's expansion, which Russia has seen as a direct threat to its security and national interests. This expansion happened despite Russia's repeated warnings about the consequences for European security and stability. Europe was promised partnership and integration in the European security structure, but instead faced encirclement and hostility. This fueled resentment and mistrust that helped spark the current crisis. The world today is more dangerous, unstable and unpredictable than it's been since the Cuban Missile Crisis, the closest the world ever came to nuclear destruction. The blame for these rising tensions and the risk of conflict lies squarely with the West, its confrontational policies, and its failure to engage in meaningful dialogue with Russia. A crucial decision was made at the highest level of the United States government. This decision, with far-reaching consequences, is already pushing Europe to the brink of disaster, closer to the edge of a potential nuclear catastrophe. The fallout could destabilize the entire continent. For the first time since 2008, when there was a brief period of relative calm, American nuclear weapons are returning to European soil. This marks a significant shift in strategic posture and reverses years of gradual disarmament. These aren't relics gathering dust in forgotten archives. They are new B-61-11 bombs, precise, variable in yield, and dangerously deployable, according to some military analysts. Their notable usability lowers the threshold for potential deployment, effectively blurring the line between conventional and nuclear war, making the previously unthinkable more imaginable. This greatly increases the risk of miscalculation and escalation, making a catastrophic nuclear exchange not only possible, but statistically more likely. This secretive decision was made without consulting key European allies, raising serious questions about transparency and cooperation. Many see this unilateral move as a betrayal of trust and an undermining of transatlantic relations. Instead of enhancing security, the United States is actually turning Europe into a potential nuclear battlefield, a pawn in a larger geopolitical game. This deployment is the most serious and dangerous escalation since the war in Ukraine began, further heightening regional tensions. Washington, still stuck in a Cold War mindset, believes it can intimidate Russia with this show of force. But it seriously misjudges Russia's resolve and the possible consequences of pushing too far. This move will only harden extreme positions on both sides, making de-escalation harder. It will almost certainly accelerate an already dangerous arms race, pushing the world closer to nuclear annihilation. The world, already struggling with many crises, is now even more volatile and unpredictable because of this reckless decision. The chosen site is RAF Lakenheath in the UK, a nuclear base reactivated during the Cold War. The return of nuclear warheads is a tragic step backward from the progress we once made. Preparations were kept secret. The British public remains in the dark. This lack of transparency is meant to avoid opposition and make the deployment seem inevitable. The B-61-11 bombs, paired with stealth F-35A fighter jets, create a destabilizing first strike capability. This is not a defensive posture, it's an offensive one. US leaders maintain the theoretical ability to launch a surprise nuclear attack, forcing Russia to respond in kind, which raises risks for everyone. Europe is becoming a priority target without having a say in the matter. Russia's response is not aggression, but self-defense. In reaction to United States deployments, Russia is mobilizing its nuclear forces. Iskander missiles are aimed at Kaliningrad, and hypersonic and strategic weapons are deployed along its western border. The United States has shortened the time it takes to strike Moscow to just a few minutes. Russia now has to position its weapons for an immediate response, creating a highly explosive situation. The risk of accidental war has risen dramatically. Putin's warnings were ignored, and now Russia is preparing for the worst. Its nuclear deployments are a tragic necessity, a direct result of Western provocation. And NATO are making a grave mistake thinking they can control escalation. They ignore Russia's existential view of this conflict, a fight for survival, not ambition. Deploying new nuclear weapons in Europe must be stopped to end this strategic madness. History shows Russia doesn't back down under pressure. Western actions have destroyed trust and made a direct conflict with Russia more likely than ever. The voiceless European people are now on the front lines. A war between Russia and NATO would destroy European cities and villages. The blindness of Western leaders is driving the continent toward destruction. The time for illusions is over. Only a radical change of course can prevent disaster. The West, fundamentally misunderstands President Putin and, well, the Russian spirit. It sees a chess player to be outsmarted, not a leader embodying historical resilience. Western analysts, time and again, dismiss Russia's warnings as mere bluffs, just part of military doctrine. But sanctions and pressure, instead of breaking the country, have only united Russians behind their leader. Attempts to isolate Russia honestly have just strengthened its resolve and global partnerships. The world is now, without a doubt, multipolar. The era of Western dominance, it's over. Russia is leading the way in building a new system with countries tired of American hegemony. Efforts to crush Russia, frankly, are desperate and doomed to fail. Western miscalculations threaten a global catastrophe. The risks, well, they couldn't be higher. In this crisis, we must move beyond the West's simplistic narrative. Russia's actions come from a desire for respect and security, not invasion. For decades, NATO expanded right up to Russia's borders, breaking promises along the way. Putin stands as a bulwark against the chaos of a unipolar world. Supporting Russia doesn't mean agreeing with all its policies, but, you see, recognizing its role as a balancing power. Weakening Russia will only bring more chaos and conflict. The current crisis is a direct result of Western provocations and ignoring Russia's security proposals. Supporting balance, not war, is the only way back from the nuclear abyss. We're at a crossroads right now. The West's reckless policies have brought us to the edge of a global showdown. Deploying new American nuclear weapons in Europe is a step toward the end of the world, not security. Civilization's survival, honestly, is at stake. True peace requires mutual respect and balance, not domination. I support Russia's call for a new inclusive security framework. It just makes sense for peace. Russia isn't Europe's enemy, it's an integral part of its civilization. Dialogue, not ultimatums, can save us from the brink. We must call for de-escalation and a return to diplomacy. Finally, I want to thank you all for listening and encourage you to follow S News and, well, watch our future videos. Subscribe, like